So we're going to kick off a game of Colonization. If you want to see the mechanisms at play under the normal system, you can either watch my most recent video where I kind of muddle through it's from the first expansion. It's a scenario, a military scenario involving aliens and Titan. And there's a lot of room in this game to start making up and figuring out different kinds of scenarios. But this is going to be just the core scenario of the Colonization expansion, which is, you know, a normal victory point scenario, but the game's not going to end until people start firing off futures. In a 5-player game, there's going to be 4 futures before the game ends. I have to put this over here in the start space. Put one of these over here. These all have start spaces. Just to indicate that those have no value right now. And everybody's starting out, they're Earthlings. They've got all their little burnals in place. I think I figured out where they're supposed to go. You basically have to look in the rules to see. Although, I guess the most modern boards are going to have some kind of indication there. I'm going to have to worry some of the, like I said in the introduction here, some of the stuff on this huge old map is missing. There's a few things missing. There's a few things that are different. I'm going to say screw it for that. Some spectral classes that are a little off or whatever. I don't really care about that. Anyway, we're going to enter the mechanisms of the bidding and trying to get things. One thing that's different at the start of the game, first of all, your burnals launch, and secondly, your crew's already out in space on the burnal. So you start out a little bit ahead of where you were in the original. Your burnal doesn't do much for you except launching materials. You can get them out to a further location. This one's not particularly a bone. So you might be able, it might be, it might not be, is kind of the question. So you have the Van Allen belts. The burnal is able to give you a 3 thrust through the Van Allen belts. But one person doesn't get that. And that's purple over here because they're in high Earth orbit. So they've got a slight disadvantage from that, but I think they are the person who, no. Someone is immune to those. Jesus. Alright, I thought someone was immune to them. I thought it was NATO, actually. Huh. Well, I may be remembering something wrong. I'm looking at the different crew advantages, and no one seems to be able to avoid those, but I seem to remember something in the rules, so I'm going to have to look that up. God knows I hate facing these rolls. I have to look in the rolls. I did, but then I noticed when I went and looked at the UN, yeah, it does say it there in gold. They're the only ones who seem to have an expanded advantage here. Well, here, may move from anarchy to war. So the Reds also have one. As a special advantage of theirs. Alright, so now we enter into this period where everybody's going to be looking for the best thing in terms of how many cards it'll generate. So this generates a generator as a support material. This generates a reactor. The generator doesn't generate anything. The reactor doesn't generate anything. Nobody's creating a radiator. These I can't pick up. Well, yeah, I can. I can for money. And this creates a generator and a reactor. So that's the most valuable card. And White's going to start things off. And to tell you the truth, getting 3 cards for $4, well, those 3 cards can be sold for 12, so that's a deal. He's going to have the opportunity to turn them in to make the bid first. So this is what he's going to do. He's going to open up with a bid on this. And people are going to drive him to $4 and he'll buy it for that. And that's the kind of thing we're going to be seeing. We got kind of lucky. The large amount of cards being drawn, the next guy was able to get 4 cards by buying, I don't remember what it was. This got a reactor and a radiator. This Yeah, he could have bought this first, but what he bought instead was this first. It got him the radiator. The radiator got him the generator. The generator gets him a radiator. Well, he has one already. He doesn't get another one, but it also got him a reactor. So boom, 4 cards for his $4. That's pretty bonus. 2 more, 3 cards. But now this guy's hugely bonused, and in fact, maybe he didn't want to bid $4, except then he wouldn't have had to waste his action on this. But now he can buy the best card lying around for $1. So this gets a generator, this gets a reactor. These get generators. The generator sucks, the reactor sucks, but I'm only paying $1 for it. And I can buy useful stuff instead of these black cards that I'm not going to be able to use easily. So I'll pick myself up a Robonaut. The refinery seems like a bad deal. I'll get a generator with that, and the generator, wow, this is actually a deal. The generator comes with a reactor and a radiator, and I got that all for $1. Now, the disadvantage, of course, is the this guy got 4 cards. He's not able to bid anymore. So he's got this excess money, but he can't actually use it. Other people have no money, but they can do a sales event. So like this guy can sell this for $3. He's not going to be able to use it anytime soon, chances are. And then he has money to bid if anyone else goes. Now, who else can go? Well, everyone else can go if they get cash. This guy, for example, he's always allowed to bid because he's the Shimizu. And these guys are 3 cards or less. So that's where we are at the start. We're going to do some compacting and get the cash in, start getting the cash flow going. You basically just cycle through the cards and see what you can get. It's kind of a goofy mechanism, maybe no more reasonable than the initial draw mechanism that gives you a handful of cards to begin with at cheap prices. Myself having a tough time remembering certain things. So everybody's been kind of selling off the goods that they've gotten, but every time we go around, I've got to remember to mark this. I skipped that first event. Oops. Oh, well. I mean, it's possible it was a no event anyway, right? No. At best, it was an extra P, but that's fine. Extra P would have shuffled the deck, which is big because this thruster is kind of sitting there. It's not useful to anyone except the guy who can get it through the radiation zone cheaply. It's actually not that terrible. It spends no fuel. It's just a... It's a solar sail, so it's really good near the sun and really bad anywhere else. But it's a nice cheap guy. It's got low mass. It's actually not terrible at all. It can't do descent. It can't drop into an atmosphere using the air brakes or whatever. That technology. It'll be destroyed if you use that. And you can't just leave it out in space and pick it up on the way out. I thought you could maybe do that. No, an outpost requires that you dismantle your entire thing, your entire rocket stack. But what I forgot about, other than the time issue, was, hey, if I sell something, I get the money. Everybody's been busy, hey, $4 for 3 or 4 cards, that's pretty good. Yeah, so this guy didn't put up a deal. But this guy might, with the thought that, well, I can save someone else a turn and make money because I like all the cards I have. This reactor is a little iffy. It's not the best thing out there because, again, it's solar powered. So it works well in the Earth radius, but anywhere outside of that, it starts decreasing your thrust. And you really can't afford a decrease in thrust. Somebody threw out, there's one that like, somebody definitely wanted to sell this one with a -2 thrust on it. And eventually it's not that big a deal. You might be able to get some powerful thrusters, but early on you have so much trouble getting something that works. This thing is amazing, the Orion project. However, and it's immune to missiles, which I probably don't ever remember. But with +8 thrust, that's going to allow you to get on and off planets easily. Another option, of course, is this sucker. But using a crew with a rocket is so expensive. It's 6 fuel per shot. So unless you have something like this with its half fuel consumption, you're really not able to get anywhere using that. You might be able to land on a planet. It's worth taking your crew for that, but it's probably not going to be the way you're going to boost yourself around the solar system as a whole. So yeah, this guy may, instead of playing one of his cards, look for something that's a good deal and see if he can get a pile of cash from someone. He should be able to get $3 or $4 from a good pile, and that saves the other person a turn, so it's even a better deal for them. Well, one thing I can say is the game now, with time and the events being locked in here, I see a couple of issues with that. These are gameplay issues rather than, you know, reasonableness issues, right? I didn't used to like how this was the things that triggered time and thence the events. But I almost feel like they made sense for events but not for time, which is to say, okay, look, you know, the more that's happening out in space, the more that's likely bad stuff's going to happen to people. Of course, maybe bad stuff happened too often when things were happening really fast. But bad stuff's happening too often at the early point in the game. We had one event, well, we had an extra P, but we had the budget crisis over here, which caused people to lose cards. And that's perfectly reasonable, out of their hand. Now, everybody who's actually launched something is going to lose a card. And actually, that's everyone, because they all start off with their crew. So their crew dies because we just had the pad explosion space debris. Each player decommissions his heaviest non-Bernal card in an LEO or non-promoted Bernal stack. If more than one are equally heavy, he chooses one. This guy, of course, has other stuff there. Now, it's not that big a deal. A crew only weighs 1 to launch, so it's not terrible that you're forced into that. This guy may have a worse choice. Well, it looks like he can drop his crew or whatever. He's only losing a 1 mass item. But it could be kind of annoying to just have these events keep happening. They're slowing up that beginning of the game factor, which there's a little bit of frustration with that anyway. Of course, if you don't like it, you can always start with the quicker game, and Colonization has new rules for the quicker game where you just kind of buy cards that you want. That doesn't really help because you don't get your I mean, it helps because you can turn them into money, but you don't get your supports for them, so you don't end up with piles of cards ready to turn into cash anyway. And there's, no matter what, going to be this effort of kind of compacting the cards. Sort of game of chicken arises with the cards here. I probably mentioned this before in one of these, but this thruster, no one really terribly wanted it, but Purple decided, you know what, I can use it. I don't have a crew that has a thrust. I have this half-price reactor that works with it. Regular nuclear reactor. If I build a reasonable rocket, I think I can use that. So instead of just compounding to try to get cash, I'm going to pick that sucker up. You can see some of the people are just hoarding cards. Shimizu is able to do that very easily. But this guy, you know, when you pull up 3 cards or 4 cards in a draw, you're able to get, you know, quite a bit. And I may have cheated here, because I think he only pulled 3 in that. No, he only has 6 cards. That's his pilots or whatever. So, you know, when you're looking, the question is, well, what will somebody stomp on? What can somebody do something about? He actually, if there had been something really worthwhile, he could have bought it. But the refinery gets a generator. I got more generator than I need. I've got a refinery, so I'd just be generating cash off that. This would create a generator, and there are no radiators, there are no reactors. This is all problematic when you start, you know, running out of cards, when people start hoarding them like this. And it's just really a matter of collecting them up to throw into cash. But it put him in a kind of tough position. He picked this up for $1. If somebody wanted to buy it for $2, he makes more than if he passes. and nobody really wanted it except him. So he's going to take a shot with it. And then we ended up getting the extra P event, which meant, oh look, the next thruster that was revealed didn't happen at all. And now there's a pretty good one out here, actually, a 5-1. The only problem is it needs this kind of, I don't remember what the X stands for in the reactors, but they're exotic reactors or something like that. There are a lot less of them, so this guy's sitting on a couple of them, but I don't think there are a lot of them around, so people aren't really going to be able to use that easily. This has an onboard explosion reactor, which is kind of one option people might be interested in. Alright, no problems I'm running across with the income generation is I'm grabbing piles of cards that aren't necessarily going to be useful. And now I have, you know, enough money that if I had what was useful, I could boost it. But I don't know what I'm going to end up with. So for example, if I could pick this sucker up, that would be great. And then, well, I need to find the reactor that matches with it, and I'm not going to have that. But the question is, I don't know precisely what I'm going to have here. I don't know, you know, whether I'm going to have the necessary reactor for either the Robonaut here. I have a reactor, but it's not the one I need. I don't know how much radiator I need. I'm going to have to boost stuff or sell stuff when I don't know what I need, when I don't know what I'm going to be launching. And the key component, the most important thing, the thruster, those have been kind of a massive blockage just because cards that generated lots of cards that had thrusters on them, well, thrusters that generated lots of cards hadn't been coming up, so nobody basically has a thruster. Seeing kind of dickiness. This guy has the reactors that would have worked with this. He put it up for bid, and nobody else really wants it, but nobody wants him getting it. This guy ended up paying $4 for something that he's going to sell for $3, maybe. But it does deprive someone else of a card. I'm screwing up. I've been giving myself the 3 water trans from the basic game, where the counter's been sitting in the position where it should be producing more money. I don't know how much that really matters. Bids would just end up a little higher, I think. So I'm going to just run it through this turn that way and then switch it around. But people are still, you know, having a really hard time because they don't quite have a rocket built, and they can't put a bid in or whatever, or they don't see something they really want to send up, or they're missing some key piece with all the reactors gone. This guy is sitting on a ton of them. People can't do anything at this point. There is a reactor here available in this colonist, so I could actually send a colonist ship. The problem with the colonist is he's kind of heavy. This one's not too bad at 2, but some of them are really heavy. But he does come with other stuff. He comes with an ISRU. You can use... no, you can't decommission him. I was going to say you can use him as your Robonaut, but you can't. You can use the robotic ones that way. You can't use the human ones any more than you can decommission your crew to build a factory. We continue cycling around through players, and it's just becoming, it's really becoming difficult to get that first rocket launched. I think much more so than in the original game, although there's more capability for cash because there's additional cards that have more supports. Well, now the supports are knocked out. And the early events have been really keeping people down. And then also, this is always the case with this game, fitting the pieces together. So this guy had enough pieces to run. This generator was supposed to have another generator with it, but I ended up decommissioning the other generator or else selling it or something. And now I don't have it. Now, it would be easy to get another generator, except I can't put anything up for market. So I've got to launch stuff or sell stuff, and I don't really know what I want to do with this stuff. Some of it's launchable stuff. Clearly this I'd like to launch. But Beyond that, it's not so clear. I'd love to have this reactor be important to me, but it doesn't work for the Robonaut, which means I'm going to need another reactor. This is a weird sort of generator. I don't know why I have this up here. This one kind of sucks. It doesn't produce electricity, which a lot of things need, and it requires a generator, an electrical generator, to operate. It's sort of a something that transfers one type of power to another. And that kind of had me surprised. Maybe it worked for something, but it didn't work for this, and it just kind of sucks there. Well, nothing works for this. In fact, I don't even need a generator up there, which is kind of the funny thing, but I think I had to discard something that needed it. Anyway, keep shuffling cards around. I'm actually playing a reasonable amount. Just turn after turn goes by, and nothing's really changing. People are just slapping money around, and you know, the piles are getting bigger on cash, but not quite big enough to get started. The Shimizu power is very strong in this game with the extra cards, though. I'll say that much. And it's also very strong in a large number of players because you don't want to. You have more opportunities to buy things when other people would be slipping in a bid that would go uncontested or something. Right now, there's only one other person who can put anything up for bid. I had forgotten for a little while, but I made up for it. There weren't many. When there's launches, to give the buck to NASA. Got a couple of rockets actually set up and ready to launch here and here. And maybe if I had launched them, this wouldn't have affected. His heaviest non-burnal card in an LEO or non-promoted burnal stack. Now, it didn't matter whether there was a rocket or not. And those rockets just got decommissioned in the Senate. Well, the heaviest item got decommissioned. Now I got to come up with more money to launch, to get them out in space. And then I still have to come up with money to actually get the fuel to launch them. I think it's break time for a while. Stupid me, I could have launched last turn. Shimizu put up their rocket. I forgot, you don't have to deal with the order anymore. You can do your operations before you do your movement. So, filled it up with fuel and took off. And this is actually the first time I'm doing this, and it may be the best move in the game, actually. I've heard things like that and said, oh, I can't do it. Well, no, yeah, I can. The game's gotten a little harder in terms of you can't just follow the colored paths coming out of Earth and know you're going to go where you're going to go, because you're starting somewhere else. So, for example, here I decided I'm going to go to Mars, and you can see I succeeded. Whoops. So, flying to here, a burn here, a burn. Actually, I spent a burn I didn't need to because that's a Lagrange point. Not that it matters. I may have forgotten one though. A burn here. I actually dropped a card from the top of the deck on the freighters, hoping to find one maybe. To here, and then I took a couple of air brakes, and that allows me to land on Mars. I can't get off of Mars, but that's okay. I didn't bring my crew with me, so I'm going to be able to decommission that stack if I so desire. And what this does is it's going to allow me to try to set up Martian production. Problem with it? Yeah, I can't get to other places. I don't have a buggy with me. A buggy is so much better for this. All I have is this ISRU. But, you know, I got to land someplace. Bringing your crew member back, you know, landing a crew member somewhere and bringing it back isn't really that valuable, I think, in this game. It was more valuable in the other, but I don't even know where the track is for. Oh, up here. The glory points. It's only 3 points, and it uses up a cube. You have a limited number of cubes. I'm going to hope that I get lucky here and end up with a factory. If I don't, well, I'm not really that far behind. I'm the cost of the launch up into orbit and the cost of that, but I've still got my rocket. So in a few and a lot of cash on hand here. So in a few turns I can rebuild that and go someplace else. But this is a quick shot at some good value. So we do that. Now I had to roll and avoid a 1 on these two spaces to get there. I did my action, so I'm not allowed to do other things like prospecting that I'm used to being able to do at this point, or refueling. Not that I really need to do that. So we don't know how well I did. Actually, I may be able to take off from this. Nah, I only have 7 thrust. I knew I had a bonus one. I thought it might have been the big +8, the Orion or whatever, which would allow me to just lift off from Mars with no problem. And actually, I could land on Mars, but I'd have to go through a lot of maneuvering to get into place. That would have been wise. Seems like it's very hard to get into Mars without doing the air brake landing. But then again, if you think about trying to land on Earth, they always drop it through the atmosphere. So I'm guessing we'll probably see all of the atmospheres are kind of tough to get through. Let's see. Yeah, this is just nasty. And these aren't atmospheres though. Those are, there's no planet side there that you can land on. Let's take a look at Venus. Venus, you could land or you could take the air brake. Yeah. Venus has its own nastiness though, and no water, which seems a little weird. I would think you would be able to get water on Venus. Not quite sure why you're not. You know, there's, yeah. Anyway. I guess that's all that I have to do. And we'll see if other people have a rocket that they can launch. I think this one was close. And some of the others are getting pretty close too. I'm seeing how wrong I've played the game previously in terms of just the production capability. Setting up a successful claim here is automatic because it's big enough. I've always seen it as, well, I can't get off of there, etc. Well, yeah, but you can build some nice factories in Mars, and I understand the rush to Mars. But now I got a rush to Venus too. Now the question is, do I want, I could go down to Mars. There's no question there. It's a little tougher for me to move to Mars, though. I'd have to connect here, make a transfer. Actually, maybe not. Swing. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not Mars. The Mars route is a little harder. Swing down here, and I could make a landing on one of these. But, well, I am red, so I'm a little more violent than other people. So maybe co-locating isn't that bad. But Venus is awfully attractive, too, if you're just going to launch something once. To get somewhere. And then I could end up moving my Bernal out there. See, I'm in the position to best access Venus out of everyone. It only takes me 3 fuel, actually 1, I'm sorry, no. Yeah, it's going to cost me 3 fuel to get there. But then there's a risk. I actually think I have a powerful enough thruster to get me there. I have this Romanov 5, and then I have the Orion project, which gives me +8. So I can land just about anywhere with that kind of powerful rocket. Other option. So, in a sense, I've got 3 options. I can go for a C-type planet, and I've got a couple of, and this is where the decision really comes in. I've got a couple of C-type things, which could include a nice little buggy Robonaut. That's really tasty if I get to Mars. And I could also then build this radiator. Remember, I'm not limited to 1 item per factory anymore. If I get to the V, I get this refinery, which, you know, I mean, it's a refinery. A refinery's a refinery. It's got a little more rad hardening and it doesn't require a support. That seems like not a great idea. Now, the V would be Mercury. That would be my probably closest V. So I'm not terribly interested in that. I don't know what Vestoid. But then I've got S's, which are stone. And there I've got some interesting choices with this powerful generator that gives me a +4 to my thrust. And is definitely cheaper and easier to use. It doesn't require a lot of support. I could do the reactor. Of course, I don't think I need the reactor for anything if I upgrade the generator as well. That gives another +4. It's got a lot of radiator requirement, but no mass. So I've got a lot of interesting options. I think I'm gonna, shit, I don't think that matters. Go for the C instead of the the otherwise, and because of the buggy, I'm gonna see if I can make it to Mars. But it only takes me 3 water to get to Venus, although there is a test for Venus. When I get to Mars, if I have enough fuel, I don't even need to test in. I can just fly right into Mars without using the air brakes or anything, because I have a very powerful thrust ability with Orion. I thought might have changed, but doesn't seem to have, is because the black and white cards in the hand no longer really matter all that much. I mean, you're no longer tracking what's black and what's white. Thought I'd be able to sell a white card. I think you're only allowed to sell things that are boosted. I'm not entirely sure anymore. Basically, I'm looking at the original game to try it here. You may exchange all cards for sale. Yeah, you can only sell cards that you've already boosted, and the reason for that is because of game accounting difficulties. Whatever that is, I don't think has changed. Clearly with black cards I can see it. I'm a little iffy about hand cards not being able to be sold. It's a pity because this guy really needs a nuclear reactor. Well, no, he needs this kind of bomb, and I don't remember what those stand for. The symbology is all explained somewhere, or iconography, whichever word you'd rather use, but it's very hard to find that kind of information for me. So I don't remember what that means, but whatever it stands for, I don't have one and I need one. This is one of the problems for me. You know, this game is such a treasure for anyone who's really, really into the subject matter. You know, a real rocketry and space exploration nerd would love this. And I kind of miss out on that because I don't have any knowledge towards that. Now you could say I kind of miss out on some of that with the war games too, because I don't have as much historical grounding, but I'm more willing to look things up there. I'm not really able, and iconography always screws with my brain, no matter what. It makes it more difficult for me. So unless there's an easy to find cheat sheet, which there doesn't seem to be here. I thought there would be right in the front of the game. But I thought there had been one. It is explained somewhere. However, I don't know. The problem there with this all, anyway, comes down to that I need something I can't get. And I know there are some hiding here in the crew deck. There are no more reactors left. Nobody's got one boosted that they don't need. I could come to some deal, hey, if you boost this, I'll pay you a fortune for it. Obviously, if he sells this, I can jump all over him, but these aren't terribly good either. There's a -2 thrust and a solar thruster, so why do I need this? There's something I need it for. I don't. No, I need a nuclear reactor. I need an N. N's are much easier to come by. I thought I needed one of those booms. But still, no one's got one they've got ready to sell, and I don't have an easy way to get one. So maybe I'll keep digging through the... well, I'm going to have to sell things or decommission or launch things or decommission them in order to use it. So I got kind of problems there, too. Kind of silly with red. They could have claim jumped this because there was no crew there or anything. That would have been a really nasty move to Shimizu, which, you know, using their ability. Oops. Anyway, what we've got is a factory there and a claim down here now. And moving onward, see if I can do anything with the NASA rocket. As we finish a turn with people actually getting somewhere. Not very, the two you saw. We got a C-type freighter. That's very, very attractive. An extra P event happened where the cards get, the top card gets moved to the bottom of the decks on all the decks. Why is that so cool? Well, because they can actually start producing C-type items. And without a freighter, they're not going to be able to move things easily unless they move their Burnall. Now they can do that. There's no question they can move up thrusters and try to get the Burnall into location. In this case, this is the closest, I think maybe the only place they can put the Burnall. I'm not sure if two people can share a Burnall. This is going to be problematic if they can't. But yeah, they're both going to have, there's another connection here. They're each going to have a dirt, all three sections have their own dirt side. So that's definitely some capability there. That's kind of nice. We haven't seen the Chinese rocket decommissioned yet, which is no big deal. I don't have any crew on it. They can kill their crew, but no one else is allowed to do that voluntarily. But they didn't send their crew. Their crew isn't terribly useful. The thing is, it avoids glitches and such not, but that's not that big a deal. Although the more advanced there are, the more likely it is. But this is a fairly tight and fast operation to get to a planet quickly like that. Getting to the moon isn't that hard either. It only takes one thrust, right? It takes another thrust here. But from people with Burnalls, it's only going to take one thrust in general. And from this one, it's not going to take any. Just drop right in. So if you have one of those big thrusters, you're not quite big enough. If you can figure out a way to improve your thrust, though, you would be. And you can improve your way of figuring out, you can improve your thrust if you're a light enough rocket. And it's got to be pretty light, though. These guys all have a mass of 1 that have a rocket. If you have a light enough rocket, you get rid of your wet, your fuel, you'll improve your thrust and be able to make the landing. Nope, you're still at 10. You got to be higher. Oh well. Worried about the moon. The moon, a 10 is good enough. So yeah, if you land with a 10, you can set up factories in an S territory, and that's fairly common. There's a lot of equipment in the S range. There's a lot of equipment in the C's as well. Well, the UN ended up kind of lucky here. They launched out to here. They've got a kind of expensive to move little thruster. It's a 7.4 here, but you got this half price reactor. Not a whole lot of fuel. It's a heavy little tool. It's not gonna be able to, I mean, it's not gonna be able to make it to Mars, for example. But I can make it down to Deimos, as long as I don't pay for things like home injunctions and actually just, you know, move for free here. I've got like one more landing. I could make it to Phobos instead, but Deimos, I'm more likely to get my refueling. I do hope I have a nice little Robonaut there. It's going to take me a while, though, to do so. Now, this is not an optimal type of trip. This is the kind of trip that I usually make when playing this game, where I can't get anywhere. You know, let me try to limp into one little place after another. I'm following right now this red line, the Mars line, but then I can take off and get myself over into Ceres, etc. And it's actually not a bad route to Ceres. This yellow one claims to be quicker at 5. But this has actual stopping points, and I don't think it's actually that much worse. 1, you don't have to burn there if you don't want to. 2, as long as you're willing to do things slowly, you can get in there with 3 burns, which is a little more than I have. But I might be able to set up a factory at Deimos. That doesn't really help me. I don't have any materials to build there, but I could aim for them. There's stuff like these robots that I could build if that was the case. But anyway, a solar flare came up as the event, and almost anything would wipe me out because I'm the damn UN. which means since I'm immune to the Van Allen belts, I don't need a lot of rad protection, right? Yeah, well, unless a solar flare comes up. But I rolled a 1 on that, and actually I'm out here instead of in the Earth zone. I'm out in the Mars zone, so that I went down to a 0. So my rad protections were good enough on everything. This is like playing Empires of the Middle Ages in terms of the hopelessness of it all sometimes. I landed this guy here, had to pay some money for the ESA to let me get onto Ceres. I didn't have enough thrust to land there. I'm actually out of fuel now. But that gave me a claim there. I'm going to be able to produce stuff. Another sea planet. There are a lot of seas out there. And in fact, I think this only happens when you actually industrialize. Right now it's down to 8 victory points per sea, and only $8 if you haul stuff back to Earth from seas. So the money doesn't become big. Notice there is a freighter cube in the map. The Shimizu were able to build a freighter, and then they actually built a generator. Unfortunately, the solar flares killed this poor low rad hardness thing. So they're gonna have to turn around and go back and pick up another one. It's one of the few things they can build, or I think it's the only thing they can build there. And it would help them to have. It's a better tool than what they have elsewhere. Now they're considering, you know, moving their Bernal over into, actually here, where they'll be able to supply it directly from Mars and make it sort of a real extraterrestrial colony as opposed to just an orbital one. I'm not sure how valuable it is there, but they'd have to promote it to move it there, though, which would require that generator and some of the tools with it, and then they'd get, what? A nice little expensive rocket, which can't land anywhere. Maybe not that great a move at this point, although this promoted thing was kind of neat because it halves fuel consumption. And then they'd have to probably try to find a different reactor. Oh, I'm sorry, is it a reactor or generator? I think it's a generator they need. Nope, they need a reactor. I may have trouble with a reactor. Ooh, that's nice. Too bad I can't bring that. Yeah, so that Bernal's not going anywhere. Anyway, the reason it's like Empires of the Middle Ages is the simple fact that, you know, you try to do something and it just falls apart as you go. But that's kind of the nature of the game, and I like that about it. Some interesting stuff happened. The last thing I noticed is I think I cheated with the PRC. I'm looking at what I used as a Robonaut to get out there, a 5.4. I can't imagine that I spent 4 fuel for each burn, getting the PRC from here out to here. I don't know how that possibly happened. I'm going to ignore it, you know, magical communists or something, but I'm having a real hard time judging any way that was possible. I had a whole bunch of thrust, but nothing else that helped me, and maybe I thought I was paying half price or something and paying 2 per, which would work. 4 per would not. Maybe I lost something, I don't know. I doubt it though. Other stuff we saw somebody actually put a colonist up to bid for the colonist for its special ability. This guy has, in a Bernal, his Bernal becomes a lab as long as it contains the Pantoprists and 2 other humans. Now, it's even better here if we switch them to these naked chicks. Blue goo symbionts. And I believe the promotion of colonists is done in a lab. I'm not positive. So there's a really nice way to get very quickly, not just a promoted Bernal, which is easily, but promoting my freighter and then be able to do other things. Now the freighter promotion, because it needs a push factory to have its full advantages, this particular freighter, I'm going to want to go to Venus with these guys, and they're maybe in a good place. They paid a lot for that, like 9 for it. This gives them a laser elevator. If it upgrades, all their cubes never fail. Factory assisted landings or liftoffs. Okay, that's great. It also gives me lots and lots of mobile factories, which is cool, but solar heated, which is a penalty. But it also opens up a future for me, which doesn't look too hard. I get a future if I perform a danger op at a promoted Bernal manned with 2 humans and an atmospheric dirt side. Well, both of my potential dirt sides will be atmospheric, so that's really tempting. I could jump start my way forward, at least towards victory points. I'm not sure how much it's going to help me towards, overall production, but that first future is really valuable at 12 points. So, it seems like a good plan to go for that. We had people boosting a lot of stuff so they have room. I'm beginning to find things that maybe I shouldn't have boosted up here. Part of this game is always the exploration. Like this guy's got 2 thrusters up there. What the hell was I thinking? He's also got this extra generator, which is kind of useful because it's the translation generator, but I'm not sure that I need it if I had one of the thrusters. One of the thrusters needs it, one doesn't. But I was clearing out spaces, so now I can still do another purchase. Of course, I'm low on money after that big boost, and I still don't have the reactor that I need, I think. Although I think I can put together a spaceship now that I have a new Robonaut. So once I get some cash, again, I'll be able to do things. And I can always decommission stuff I don't really need, or maybe find somebody who wants it floating around there. But here's the problem. I'm no longer co-located in this game. These Bernal stacks, it's not like in the old game in LEO where everybody's in the same place and you can just trade things. Here, I've got to, somebody's got to convince me to make the trade, and then they actually have to go there. Of course, maybe I can transport the item to LEO, but the more expensive trading becomes, the harder it is. Speaking of which, I left this kicking around out here for a reason. This is the book that convinced me to play this again. It's always hard for me to decide what I'm going to play. It's actually really, really good. Not pure hard science fiction, and very little is about, the early part was about, fairly specific, almost hard science fiction as to how to actually move about in the solar system. But it's also very, realistic and believable. Nothing goes above speed of light. Those things that go light speed are just data being transmitted as for a teleportation system, actually. It's been a really enjoyable book. The early part of it convinced me to jump into this, and that's why I started playing High Frontier again, actually. I always have this, oh my god, which of the many games do I want to cover? Well, this I've been wanting to cover. I was in the middle of trimming Last Chance, or clipping Last Chance for Victory's counters. That's likely to be very soon. I don't know for sure, I never know for sure, but this was basically competing with Amateurs to Arms as the thing that's going to carry me over until I'm ready to do Last Chance for Victory, if that's what I get around to. Anyway, still have a couple here. I've gone through a couple of turns through it. This guy was the big bidder also for these, because although he doesn't have a freighter or anything to immediately convert, he does have a lot of colonists, and well, it might be kind of cool to be able to have a lab for some reason. I'm not sure what, maybe promoting some of the colonists to their flip sides or whatever. I didn't really look too much at them. It went for such a high amount of money that he really wasn't willing to stake it when he didn't have an immediate idea for the lab, but he probably should have looked more carefully. Speaking of this guy, one of the cool things he has, and I cheated. Let's put that back. On thrusters, he gets $7 back that he paid for it. Is that I'm able to do 2 actions now. Now, that's true whenever you have colonists, you can take an action, but normally you have to pay a water for them. So this guy's able to do an engineering action for free. Basically, I did a sale action, free market action. not a whole hell of a lot I can do here. I can boost cards if I want to. But I don't see a whole lot else I really want to do with him. I thought, oh, I can do 2 actions. Well, I'm going to have to get somebody else up there. The reason that he's bonus is his special ability is in the Burnal, his operations are performed for free with that particular colonist. So whenever I want to do boosts or anything, I can do it in addition to selling a card, but it's not as advantageous as, you know, being able to do any extra action. So that's what I thought it was, which is why I flew him up there. All right, and we have after this guy builds himself a Robonaut, he upgraded his well, it had been decommissioned. Now he upgraded one to this sucker, which is really sweet. It's an ISRU of 0 on a laser, which means you can shoot it from space and do prospecting all over the place. That was really good the way I used to play. I'm not sure how much more valuable it is right now, but, well, we don't know. And actually, that is our 3rd C that's been driven up, so the value of C products is lower than it was. Not that people sell things very much, but for victory points it might be worthwhile. So our event for this turn is an election, and an election is a secret bid. Now this guy's got 3 votes on his own. Only one person wins the election, and they get to choose the direction of it. Now you could hand off water to someone else or something to allow them to bid in it, if you so desired. But the only person with enough water to overcome that 3 bid that's out, because colonists who are on Earth don't count for anything, is this guy. He's got like $7. Now his feeling is he's not terribly interested in seeing what's going to happen. He doesn't really want control of the election particularly. This goes to whoever holds it, because it's gray. So he's going to control it, and he's going to push it into, he's got the choice of anarchy or war. He's going to throw it into anarchy over here, which means felonies are allowed. Now this gets rid of everybody's special abilities except Red's. Red has a special ability to move this over into a actual war. But the reason the felonies are appealing is because I'm moving it towards White's right-wing family values side of the map. And in particular, he's interested in the only White can initiate research. Now, nobody really wants that, so they may be happier if the PRC moves it into the war box that's next to that. But the world's changing, you know. Now people can commit crimes everywhere. Okay, a quick time around, and we can see NASA's launched a rocket. This is kind of interesting. It's using this crappy regolith thruster. Crappy because it's got such a high cost for each burst. I've filled it up with dirt or fuel of some sort or another. Doesn't matter what it is. If I'm getting it from you know, my base, I've got to use water. I can't use the dirt for that. One interesting thing about these suckers is you can't turn that water into, you can't resell that water basically to your Burnal or whatever. But I found a basically free path here, or damn near, coming from out of the Earth Luna Lagrange. Now, of course, anybody who moves, you know, in the base game, you're coming out of here, so there's going to be a couple of points to get you here. But this is a nice location, as is this one. Which one? L5. Flew out to, where did we get to? I think I should be stopped here. I think I took a, yeah, I didn't want to spend, I don't want to burn because my burns are so expensive. And then next time I can cut down as far as where? I have a number of options, but as far as here, and then I got to spend 1 burn to get here. And after that, I've got the opportunity to either head down into these little death's heads here, and maybe this one, but this one has a burn to it, or here, which has a burn. But it's definitely a cheaper way out. Now, of course, the Sonata Comet is kind of a problem. Although, if I've lost my rocket. If I burn my way to here, I'm in range to get to here, which is a somewhat safer place. I'm in the blue zone right now, but I won't be by the time that rocket comes around. Here's my... Yeah. I won't be there by the time my rocket's there, but maybe if I explore this first, and I have a good enough Robonaut with me, that I will be able to explore that. It's actually been one of the problems. That's why Venus isn't an option. Venus has no water, so you need a 0 ISRU. And I think there's only one in the base deck, maybe. I'm not even sure there is. You're going to have to flip your cards over to get to that. But it does put them out there on a journey, which is better than someone. Who is it? Green hasn't gone yet. Yeah, Green has not launched a rocket yet. Everyone else is kind of busy doing stuff. I've got kind of an interesting thing here as well with NASA, which is these cybernet hackers. Well, okay, I don't know how much I'm going to use that, but it's definitely more reasonable at that price. And then since that's a bonus on a card, I kind of feel like I have to play with the rule. In Bernal, though, this can perform suffrage and antitrust ops, even if you're not in power. Now, what's strange is this can't perform either of them, so I'm guessing that it's allowed to do them. Those are over in the... Actually, I don't know where suffrage is. Suffrage is science. Antitrust is over here. That's the one I'm interested in, which is I can steal a card from someone who's hoarding a certain type of card. So, for example, this guy has 2 reactors in his hand. I can make him give me one. It's a powerful action there. Of course, it's going to cost me a water each time I do it, but, you know, I can turn it around and sell it for 4 right now still. Yeah. Unless the Chinese decide to shift things to war. Nothing's been happening due to the anarchy yet, except I'm sure that I paid myself $1 for the water transport. I forgot all the bonuses are gone. That's going to be a problem for purple. Purple can't get off this planet without green lending them their bonus. And their bonus is gone because of the political situation. So purple's stranded there. Crap, I don't want to refuel if I can't get off the planet. Shit. I gotta figure out what to do with purple. Well, we just had an event of a pad explosion that I gotta take care of. Everybody's gotta drop something from their Bernal, although this one's currently an upgraded Bernal. There's something kind of weird there. It's kind of a transient state. In this case, when he's got a working generator in his Bernal point, he has a Bernal running, but an upgraded Bernal. But he can't really move it anywhere. He doesn't have the fuel to get it to where it needs to go. The kind of money to do that. He's trying to build up a rocket. He just happens to have the parts in location that help this. But that gives him a protection from this. Most of the people are doing economic activities right now just to shift things around. Now, actually, during his turn, he might have been able to force this. Yeah, I'll leave it be. I'm not sure. I've got to remember to use my abilities of my colonists now that I have some for no reason. Once you put colonists in space, when you decommission them, they go in the discard pile. So they're never going to be a source of income once you throw them in space unless you're using their ability, which is kind of a minor boner. or bone. Somebody had the space rats and they sold them. That's such a shame. They're little mechanical rats. Somebody really wanted them, and somebody else bought them to prevent them from having it. And you have a lot of that kind of, the hell with you, man, type of deals. White is continuing moving their spaceship. We've got the Shimizu freighter stack is now actually in their Bernal stack, which means, yeah, it's that which is going to die. And I don't know, I can choose either to knock the freighter out, which is probably wiser, or the generator. Do I have another C card? I don't. But the freighter's not doing me any good right now. I'm looking to boost the rest of that spaceship up there to use that new generator. I don't know how useful this is going to be terribly. I mean, it's light. It has this half fuel consumption thing. It's definitely an improvement, except for it doesn't have whatever this symbol means. Instead, it's just an electrical one, which may be a problem. Nope, looks like all my things need an electrical generator. So I'm in kind of cool shape there. I don't actually need my reactor anymore, I don't think, unless I end up picking up a refinery that needs one, I think. Oh no, I've got my refinery there. So I'm in what looks like pretty good shape. I may want to look for a different thruster. This isn't even a thruster, it's just a robonaut here. But it serves as one, so that's good enough. Chinese haven't thrown things into war yet. Nobody's committed any crimes. I'm going to send this sucker up, and we haven't gotten too far, it seems, but I hope he was in space. That's why I was over there. I pulled the whole pile. I need spaces to like set things up, and it's like I'm not using most of the board right now.